And in the bottom left-hand side for BIG, Berlin International Gaming, it is ShoWTimE. It's ShoWTimE.
You were there with me, weren't you, when it like had that introduction of ShoWTimE and with like the super jazzy kind of like, it's ShoWTimE.
He stole it for his stream. Now that's his subscriber sound.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Okay, that's exactly that's what I would do too if I had such a funky
that's what
sound.
I would do as well. It was fantastic. Well,
All
this is a
right.
little funky in itself, Benny. It's proxied racks, but it's not really meant to be super duper aggressive, right? Just not to be found.
Yeah, exactly. I was getting a little bit distracted by ShoWTimE's little red box on the minimap, by the way. Like, it was just freaking out and spazzing all over, just the camera location hotkeys. In fact, you can kind of see it a little bit, right? But yeah, it's a fake proxy, but it's still reasonably far out enough that it is going to make a Reaper arrive faster. It's a double gas behind it as well, which ShoWTimE scouts. And now going through his head, it's like, all right, is it a fake proxy? Is it a real proxy? Most likely, oh, look at that. It's a full-on proxy. Hoy.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of this from Future in a different matchup yesterday, but this is kind of a weird one for me. Like, it's on the low ground, first of all. Why not make it on the high ground if you're going to do something like this? And like you were saying, this looks to me like I look at the pathing, and it looks like a perfect Reaper path. I guess it's still a pretty decent... Yeah, it's still a pretty short path to the natural, right? Can we follow the path from the proxy to the natural just to show how short it is?
It's reasonably short for sure. Like, it will arrive fast, but there's a big thing going on here, Cats, and that's the fact that he made a Marine along with the factory, but he's gone for a reactor. I think this is kind of like what TY was doing when he was still playing before he went to the military, where it can be like Hellions into then Widow Mines and drops and stuff. Like a proper funky build. And I know I kind of breached upon how he can bring the funk, but this, I didn't expect it from Clem.
Yeah, and ShoWTimE, he's gonna scout it actually, and he already dropped the Stargate as well, as he probably deems that is one of the more... Oh, and this is huge actually. He's gonna get the starport interrupted here by killing the SCV. Now Clem has to bring a new SCV or outright cancel that starport right now. A difficult decision to make. ShoWTimE already knows what's coming, and it was gonna be a medevac like you were mentioning. He was already gonna be ready with Phoenix. Now he's gonna be super duper ready with Phoenix. So it's just an issue of covering his wall off at the front, I feel like, and he should be in a great position to start this.
Yeah, this is not the start you want. Like Clem's head, I saw it twitch a little bit, which is the famous little twitch, you know, when stuff starts going wrong. But goes for the Oracle here as a response. I like that as well, actually, because I think either one. The one thing I feel that would be worse for ShoWTimE is to go Oracle, then Phoenix. Although players can do it, because then you have Phoenix out to chase the medevac. Yeah, sometimes it's better to just kind of like double down on one or the other. But he is going to go for the Phoenix anyway, which, given that he knows exactly what he's up against here with that proxy, he knows better than me.
Yeah, what I was thinking, Oracle into Phoenix still sounded good to me because the Phoenix is still going to arrive in time for the medevac, right? Where normally if you were to go Oracle into Phoenix, your Phoenix would just be too late. But now he knows that he delayed the starport, so the Phoenix should be out in time, and it's going to be exactly out in time. Look, it's going to intercept the medevac still. So reveals the Oracle. Maybe that gives Clem a little bit of confidence, but the Phoenix is here. Now, is that enough of a Phoenix, though? Just the one. There's 6 Widow Mines already out for Clem, so he never stopped producing them. And one of those Widow Mines is just going to make it so that the Adepts have a little bit of trouble getting up the ramp. And these 2 mines are actually both going to connect and target onto the first Phoenix, which is really nice for Clem, because that means that the other Phoenix cannot take down Widow Mines on its own. The second Widow Mine into the natural base will get intercepted and killed by the Adepts. But this is still going to be non-stop aggression from the young French to follow.
It certainly is. And this hasn't really done enough damage yet for Clem. Oh, we'll get another Widow Mine down. And remember, the only kind of vision that, well, ShoWTimE has is his Oracle. And it's like, okay, where do I go? And he's valuing and prioritizing the Widow Mines that are at the apt locations, such as in the mineral fields, which I think is good. So he just has to be careful about that one in between the bases. And it's just slightly too far north to really connect with anything.
Yeah, I mean, Clem has lost more resources at this point in time than...
beautiful.
Beautiful. ShoWTimE is handling this incredibly well, I think. Like, I really like his response. Like, the more I think about it, like in retrospect, right, it seems like so perfect because he was already accounting for the armory being added on and for these mines being cloaked and like anything that could happen with that Oracle first, because that Oracle first also means that he's gonna get the energy up as well, right? So he always, like you were saying, like sometimes you have to choose, like, where do I go with this Oracle? This time around, he was always on top of everything, it feels like, and as difficult as this sort of tactic is to stop, he is ahead in resources while having the greedier opening. So I think it's a wonderful position to be in right now.
A great position, and ShoWTimE actually cleans up every Widowmine. There's only one on the map, which is kind of blocking a potential third base, but ShoWTimE is just taking the other third. I'm not sure if he even tried to go for that one in the first place, but yeah, resource-wise, look at that. 47 probes to 33. We have STIM and +1 coming alive for a Clem, or at least it's on the way, but ShoWTimE with charge and +1 armor on the way as well. And he's the one with a decent Phoenix count, just a third on the way. Great shape for him.
Yeah, quite amazing. And this game really hypes me up a lot for today and for days to come for DreamHack Masters, because Ben, like, yeah, we've been watching the groups, and there's like obviously all of these players that are going to be competing at all, and DreamHack Masters are excellent. But when you watch two of the very best, just like their every move is so freaking cool that it makes for such exciting matchups. So as much as this one is just quote unquote just to determine perhaps who finishes first, you know, like the stakes aren't too high. It's like Jess said, like they haven't played in 3 months, and just to see them clash is such a treat.
Absolutely is, and upgrades aren't finished for either side yet, so these are kind of some of the most kind of handicapped armies you'll see fight it out for quite some time. Like STIM, very close to being done, +1, but +1 on both sides, and Clem is actually going to reinforce this and really double down, and I think this could actually be kind of scary for ShoWTimE, because despite everything going well for him so far, look at Clem. He's not going to let him just sit back and juice up.
Oof. Yeah, and he's still looking for those mistakes, Clem is. However, not burrowing that mine, not getting that probe. Actually, I think ShoWTimE could have picked that up before it went off. 2 probes unnecessarily die. And yeah, I feel like the Adepts are not what ShoWTimE wants right now, but it is what he wanted early, so they're just kind of there. Now he has charge, so Zealots are being warped in, and with the Archon on site as well, I feel like ShoWTimE should begin to stabilize just fine. But yeah, Clem is pretty relentless here.
The thing is, when that combat shield finishes up, the one thing that's scary is the Archon. That's it. And ShoWTimE must know that as well, because the rest of this army, it's kind of hard to take down that cluster of units, especially on the ramp here, like Clem's posturing. Yeah. But second Archon does join, that makes it a lot scarier.
Yeah, and given the choke, I almost want the Phoenix to just not lift up the mines and run into the Marines, at least a couple of them. But yeah, it's a pretty risky maneuver, right? Like more often than not, they're going to go after the mines, and that's exactly what ShoWTimE chooses to do. That means the rest of the army is going to go down, and you got to just trust your army to be able to handle the Marines. They're going to be able to just fine as the choke is not able to be held. And like you said, those Archons, now 2 of them, are a big threat if you want to keep your army clamped up. So the choke there, not enough for Clem to hold that position. And now ShoWTimE with a 30 supply advantage, Ben, 70 workers to 48. It seems pretty freaking dire for Clement to punch.
Pretty freaking dire indeed. Like, he just got his third base situated. In fact, it's still building, which that ain't great. I love how ShoWTimE did that, by the way. Like, he was so careful. He didn't rush out into it or anything. He was like, all right, let's wait until I can truly clean it up. And then he went for it, picked up all the Widowmines. Not one of them really got the connections needed. And now ShoWTimE's just sitting pretty, and he's getting ready. He's taking a 4th base. He's really expanding across that left side of the map, not going for where he thought, or where Clem thought he would take a 3rd/4th base with that Widowmine. Clem does at least scout it, though, which is nice and scary for him, seeing how far ahead his Protoss opponent is.
For sure. Massive difference as well from the one Archon that we were talking about to the second Archon that ShoWTimE waits for in order to take that engagement, right? Because that makes the ramp so much less effective. Like, the ramp that you were talking about is great because it's choky, and that means that a lot of the Zealots are going to lose efficiency and that they don't have the surface area to get onto all the Marines, whereas all of the Marines are shooting. But if all the Marines are shooting in this clumped up area that we see on the camera right now, and you have 2 Archons shooting at that clump, they kind of melt. So really cool moves from ShoWTimE. Good force fields as well to buy time here, perhaps. Don't want to engage onto those, of course.
Certainly don't. ShoWTimE is a little bit supply blocked here, but those pylons finish just in the nick of time here to get these warp-ins going. 2 Colossus will pop out fairly soon, and this little moment here definitely makes ShoWTimE a little bit worried, but he's just playing so patient, man. He's got, like, units in between the reinforcements as well, just to be extra annoying. He's getting decent upgrades on the go. ShoWTimE's playing really good PvT.
Oh, yeah. Nice job here. Okay, we'll actually eat a couple of mine shots to the face, but those Colossus are about to arrive, and that will give ShoWTimE the confidence to move out, right? Like, I think that he could have maybe taken that fight earlier, but I think he notes what you noted, which is I got 2 Colossus on the way. I don't need to engage right now, because when those are out, it just turns into a really easy hold.
Certainly does. Look at these Phoenix, by the way. Low health as hell, but ShoWTimE still microing to keep them alive, because those guys are useful. They just spotted this massive Doom drop that Clem was trying to get in position, and Clem's microing like a beast over here, but ShoWTimE, in fact, ShoWTimE's really bleeding out supply here. Clem doing a really good job of making the most of a very bad situation.
Yeah, but it is indeed a very bad situation. These mines are looking to connect them to some of those zealots. They will do so, and actually connect them to the back zealots, which means a lot of the zealots don't splash the army of Clem. Clem's army has been steaming across the map, as you can see in their healths. And yeah, they will find shelter in their third for now, but that's only because ShoWTimE doesn't feel like he wants to go just yet. I think as soon as the rest of his reinforcements and maybe these other 2 Colossus that are following join in, ShoWTimE's just gonna have the green light here to go all the way.
Oh, I love that hallucinated Phoenix that he tried to send over the army there. These Archons are pretty low, but that is so much splash. Look at that Protoss army there, cats. That is just
there they are.
Lasers, lasers, lasers.
Lasers, 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 and with that, a stoic ShoWTimE is going to take game number 1. He didn't really care, right? And I mean, fair enough. He is the best Protoss in Europe, so this should
He said he didn't really care?
No, he was like, you know...
He had a little fist bump. He went...
Oh, really? Really? Oh, okay. I caught him just opening his water and yeah.
I mean, if it was Evian water, then it would be rightly so a fist bump. You know, oh, I get to drink some Evian now. You know.
Oh, Evian, that is my stuff. 2,000 atmospheres is going to be the next one, by the way, Benny. Go on.
I mean, winning on Glittering Ashes, that isn't the Terran map of choice against Protoss at all, I feel. What would be the last map? Oh, so the last map would be Hardwire if it went down to it, which... Yeah, these next 2 maps, I mean, Clem obviously can't make any more errors. And I say errors, even though I don't feel it was super errors in that game. I think ShoWTimE just played really well, which is what we wanted to see, right? Like, I know a lot of Protoss out there, these builds can be funky, they can be annoying, but ShoWTimE is pretty damn succinct about how he wanted to deal with that. Didn't have to be super fancy, just had to not be super crazy either.
Succinct. And yeah, for sure, I'm with you, Ben. I mean, like, the error, if there was one from Clem, was the, I guess, risk that he took in proxying his buildings. But that doesn't make the strategy bad. It just means sometimes you get it off, sometimes you don't. Sometimes, you know, your opponent just happens to scout where you dropped your proxy, get the information earlier. It comes down to scout timings, things that can be a little random, even in the pro player's mind, right? It's not like he has a blueprint of what ShoWTimE is going to do, because I mean, sometimes you go into a game and you don't even know when you're going to scout and stuff like that. But yeah, at least that was true for me. Maybe you're a little more organized and have a plan for each game. But in the top right-hand side, it is going to be for Team Liquid, Clement de Planche.
You didn't have a plan when you started off games?
Yeah, most of the time, not. I just go off a feel of the series and stuff like that.
You're so crazy. Anyhow, spotting her in the bottom left as I read first, it is ShoWTimE.
Wait, so you always know when you're going to scout as soon as you enter a game?
I think it's a good idea to at least paint the picture of what I want to do a little bit.
So, yeah, I guess it's different mentality as well from Terran to Zerg, right? Because Zerg is mostly reactive and Terran is very proactive. So I think with Terran, you do want to strike first, and that should mean you get to execute your plan more often than not.
Like if let's say I'm playing Hardwire against a Zerg, right? I at least like to be knowing, all right, I'm probably going to go Banshee this game. Like I'll do 2 CC Banshee, let's say. And it's good to have that idea in mind as opposed to like flappy and about. I think one thing that is very interesting between Terrans and Zergs, though, is I remember this happening early on when I had Zerg friends that were trying to learn Terran and vice versa. They'd be like, what supply do you drop your factory? And I'd be like, I don't know, you do it after your barracks. And it'd be like,
Yeah.
when do you do this? And it's like, oh yeah, after this. Whereas Zergs, it was all mapped out with like, at this supply you drop it, or at this timing you do it.
No, you've been talking to a laser maybe. I mean, for timings on the other end of things, yeah, Zerg has to drop like a 330 roach warrant, to answer Twilight openings, because otherwise you get killed to the Adepts. But that is because the Protoss has their 420 timing with the Adepts. So you have
420 timing?
You're working around, yeah. When you have timings for Zerg, it is usually to work around timings from the other two races, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but Terran...
So it yeah.
But with Terran, I don't know the timings. I just
know what
my
you're
factory is then.
Yeah. So like, for a while there, for example, like pre-Legacy of the Void, like it was like at 5:30 every 2-1-1 hits, right? Like now there's a variety of 2-1-1, so like, you can hit like around 5 or like 3 even. But still, you want your link speed for that time, right? If you're a Zerg player, so like there's a little bit of that, but for the most part, it's working around what the other races have to do.
I got you. It definitely makes sense when you have to respond to things as opposed to you're the one doing the things. Because Terran's obviously hey, I got to throw you off tempo kind of thing. But Clem does get to scout the Stargate here, which is a big deal when you're talking about TVP, because obviously they have 3 different techs available. Very often it's going to be Twilight or it's going to be Stargate. And we saw from the NA that a lot of those Protosses over there, like Disc and Trigger, like to go for Blink in this matchup, whereas ShoWTimE, when you play against somebody very, very solid that has all the tools available and can utilize all the tools, it's very important getting to know which tool they're actually going to use.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, you were talking about this when you were saying when you play against those North American Protoss, they kind of default to like the safe catch-all builds. ShoWTimE much more worried about what are you doing here. And that's exactly why he's going to eat another Cyclone lock-on, or try to get him actually as the Cyclone is on cooldown, does lock-on towards the end there, to try and scout what the tech is. Is this not enough information for ShoWTimE, Benjamin?
I think it's good, actually. Yeah, if I'm looking at him, he gets to see that there is 3 barracks up, and no way in hell could there have been a 3rd CC as well up with this. So he knows he has to take it a little carefully, because there's going to be a push coming to him pretty damn soon. Does lose a little probe for that Reaper's troubles, and the Reaper gets to see that Robo-Bay going down as well. They're both totally in the know of what the other guy's doing, which is that's what you like to see. I don't want to see either of these guys caught off guard, but I also want to see, speaking about getting caught off guard, that could have been messy.
That could have been a little bit messy indeed. And it looks like Clem is going to choose to move out a little bit, maybe apply some pressure to this 3rd, or at least feign aggression up until this watchtower. I'm not sure. Now that he is tagged, maybe he moves on a little bit further, even if that wasn't his initial plan. But no, it looks like he's kind of ready to commit. This army looks so flimsy. No, he's going to go back. So I think initially he was just going to hold the watchtower, Ben, but since he gets tagged, he continues to advance because he knows that ShoWTimE knows that he is moving, right? So like ShoWTimE should maybe respect it a little bit more, or drop additional defenses, or anything for free that you can get from that.
Yeah, and this is also kind of like how Protoss try and make Zerg players play honest. Here gets to kill that Observer, which is a big deal. In fact, medevacs are out now. That extra tag is a big deal as well from ShoWTimE, because with those medevacs, obviously grants you so much mobility. But also just keeping the Protoss honest, because it's just missing one force field can actually cost you the game in these kind of situations. And ShoWTimE, he's really banking on getting that Colossus out. That is the real kicker for dealing with this.
Yeah, for sure. The Immortal's going to face forward here, as it is more likely to answer the Cyclone that wants a lock-on at the front and has, in that sense, the longest range in the Terran army for the time being. Now the Colossus is out though, Benny, so it should be all right for a ShoWTimE that did take a relatively early 3rd. He is at 57 workers to the 48 of Clement, and Clem is a little bit behind on his 3rd. So yeah, why does the Terran feel behind when nothing has happened and he gathered the first bit of information, Ben? Like my guess is that he's not, but I want to know why he's not.
I mean, honestly, Cats, that question that you asked me just then, I've been asking myself that for the last 12 years when it comes to TVP. Like, I'm just behind. Nothing's happened. Why do I feel this way? I don't know.
Okay, Ben, okay.
But like the fact that ShoWTimE scouted this, I mean, he could have went for like a 3cc build off like one barracks, which would have punished ShoWTimE's play. But ShoWTimE's just playing very, very safe and not making any mistakes. Whereas Clem, he's kind of hoping that ShoWTimE, like he can pick him apart a little bit.
Yeah, I was not expecting that, Benny.
Yeah, you woke a rant in me, Cats.
Yeah, I did. There's gonna be the +1 armor here on the side of Clem being started, so that's gonna be nice. Thermal lance halfway through. Okay, Widow Mines here are gonna connect onto a few units. It's gonna be 2 probes for the time being. And this is maybe what it is, Ben. Like that's like a lot of the time it feels like the Terran needs to find openings to find a little bit of damage, right? Like in 2 probes is not it from those Widow Mines. We saw a much more aggressive Clem last time around. This time around, we're seeing a more macro-oriented Clem, and maybe this is not his comfort zone, but it is what will allow him to get into that mid game and late game, and maybe it is a way to do it from a tiny bit behind to start. But I mean, as I say that, Benny, they're kind of keeping up in supply as well, you know?
Yeah, so to be very honest, like Protoss, once they get up to the 3 bases, they slow down a lot. Like that's when they have to throw down their gateways and all that stuff, whereas the Terran, they kind of commit to those things earlier. And you don't need as much infrastructure, which might be surprising. Like you having 5 barracks is most of the time enough for 3 bases. Whereas the Protoss, you need to go up to like 10 gateways. And you might be like, oh, what about the reactor and the tech? Well, then not quite as much, you know. But yeah, the Terran also has a lot of mobility, which in itself is a different resource. And here, with less units, you can do more almost, which, yeah, it's going to be kind of a cool situation, a cool back and forth. Clem's just going to be trying to pry ShoWTimE apart and really catch him off guard.
Well, that's what I wanted to hear, Ben. So yeah, there's going to be advantages for either side. Clem does have map control as well. He has the watchtowers. He has units pretty much everywhere. So he's going to be aware of anything that ShoWTimE tries to do. But for now, ShoWTimE is happy just retaining his 3 bases and trying to expand to a 4th while just having pockets of units kind of just to account for whatever Clem might do on that multi-prong like you have been mentioning is possible. The Phoenix are also in the dead airspace, so any sort of drops are accounted for as well.
Yeah, the Phoenix count's really good, and to stop those drops over there, like ShoWTimE's really getting himself sorted on this 4-base situation. Clem's caught up in SCV / kind of taking the lead here, and that does often happen. Like even though the Protoss usually gets to like 60 pros and Terran's on about 50-ish, around this period of time, Terrans want to stop around maybe like 75 to 80. And this is where the Terran army slows down a bit, because now you're starting to add those really heavy units such as Ghosts, which are very expensive for the amount of supply they are. Very supply efficient.
Oh, we were talking about the Phoenix count. It might come into effect here, but those medevacs, of course, do boost into the more annoying grounds here for the Marines to unload, so that the Zealots have the longest amount of pathing to do to get to them. Still, they will get to them, so the Marines do trade as effectively as they can, but that's not enough to make the drops actually worthwhile. This Colossus actually overextends past the shield battery, which allows Clem to pick it off. And I mean, ShoWTimE just kind of click moved all of his army here in the middle, which is a nice collapse. Will it be enough, as Clem is trying to do some aerobics here to try and get out?
Yeah, that looked like Clem was avoiding getting totally collapsed on there. And he is 2-2, pretty close to finishing. +1 air weapons as well for those Vikings. Pretty damn close. The EMP Shockwave as well. That would be huge, getting that upgrade, because that could blanket this army. But supply's very close. ShoWTimE feeling that its time is now to push, but he has to be careful, because his units, look how they're funneling in here, and because of the range of Colossus, they're sat shooting the orbital, but the orbital goes down. That's a big deal.
That's massive. Now the SCVs are going to turn their attention to the fight, so they're going to buffer for a lot of those Zealots and those random adepts here. Clem should be able to take this engagement decisively. Will that be enough? I think at this point, maybe you just pull the SCVs from your natural as well and cross the map, because or maybe not. He does have another base, a 3rd. Is that enough economically to stay in the... Oh! Those mines are actually massive as well. That might just encourage Clem further. I think he has to make something happen on the counter offense here, Ben. But
I mean, I think it's already kind of happened, Cats. Like, ShoWTimE's lost so much with that attack. Look at the resources lost tab. He lost all the value in his army, and he's trying to get out some miracle worker disruptors, which might be able to buy him some time. But Clem, Man, that trade was so damn good for him. Protoss overextension right there.
You only get one shot to not miss your chance to blow. It's an opportunity that comes once in a lifetime. Is it gonna happen right now? That is.
Take it away, Cats. Take it away.
Take it away, my boy. Okay, now you have 2 chances to not miss your chance to blow, but they are holding on to those chances, and Clem is gonna pounce on the opportunity. Disruptor number 1 goes down. The second one does connect in a beautiful manner, and that's gonna keep ShoWTimE alive for the time being. Still a supply advantage for Clement, who has somehow managed to drop a mine and continue to babysat it at the 3rd or the 4th base of ShoWTimE. So this game is still very much going. Clem lost a CC and a lot of SCVs on the other side, which would make me think that economically he should be way further behind than he is, but somehow he has managed to keep up. And in terms of army, he is still in a very advantageous position at 80 army supply to 36. So this looks like a Clem advantage still.
Very much so, yeah. Like, if I could go back in time, it felt like ShoWTimE really lined everything up for that big attack. And maybe the probe count wasn't quite high enough, but that's because he planned on the big attack. Those disruptors have to be so damn careful.
Yeah, they really do. Clem, we know that he can pounce onto them at the same time. I mean, he miscalculated, which is very, very uncommon for Clem, right? Like earlier, he got hit good by the last second of that disruptor shot before it went down. So he has to be a little bit careful still, but he is, at the same time as this is all going on, retaken his 4th base. So he is going to be more than happy to transition into the later stages, I think, at 70 workers now to the 69 of ShoWTimE plus mules and that little bit of supply lead. Nice.
Certainly. More ghosts coming out as well. 6 ghosts in the army so far. 3-3 coming along for Clem. 3-2 on the way for ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE feeling kind of suffocated though. Like he's got that dream disruptor around the side there. We have to keep an eye open for what that bad boy can get done here, because that's obviously planned from ShoWTimE, and is sniped by Clem there, and ShoWTimE losing out quite a lot more chasing down Clem here, but disruptor will buy him some time to get away.
Yeah, let's see if Clem can spot that observer there, as it's spotting all of Clem's rotations as well. So it's kind of annoying. If he could spot it, he could EMP it really quick, clear it. But ShoWTimE with really good vision here. I'm sure he realizes, and yeah, he will scan forward as well. He will see one of those observers, but choosing not to commit for it for the time being, as he's being chased by a few stalkers. So, yeah, I mean, ShoWTimE with a really nice perimeter of vision, just knowing exactly where the army of Clem is kind of going towards. And that is super important, because then you can have your entire army as ShoWTimE reposition accordingly. And that's really important when you have the likes of disruptors in the field. A really nice mine will connect and kill a stalker and bruise a few others. Clem is going to find the army with that mine, and that's going to give him the green light to go in here. That disruptor will whiff its first shot. Take it away, Ben.
Oh, by the way, there's a few things going on here that I love. Okay, snipes down the shield battery overcharge. ShoWTimE getting a bit of a wraparound here, which actually, this whole situation, I thought he was out of position, and I was like, he's going to recall in a second, but no, he didn't need to. Just a really nice warp in. Clem does get away, but not unscathed. He lost a lot of ghosts. I was just noticing how Clem's been utilizing his Vikings, by the way. He just sat them at home, so they were there to deal with these Zealot run-bys, which I thought was a really good move by him, because why have them in your army if there's no Colossus? And this way, so that way you get to deal with the run-bys with the Zealots, and you get to keep them alive just so your opponent can't make the Colossus, and then you can bring them into the fights when you do that. So some very smart decision-making by Clem this game.
Very, very smart. And he seems pretty safe as well with those sensor towers, right? Like we were talking about the observer perimeter for ShoWTimE. That is one thing that Terran can just do by dropping one of those sensor towers near their bases. And yeah, fair enough, Benny. I wish Zerg had sensor towers.
I mean, you guys have creep. You can't bloody talk about... Yeah, I'm not even going here. I feel this is nice bait, mate.
It's a little bit, yeah. Yeah, creep is definitely the best.
Creep is 100% the best. It's insane. All right. Clem moving in here. Gets some EMPs going down. In fact, is there no shield battery? There's no shield battery at this base. That is huge.
Oh, those disruptor shots. They're going to clip onto a couple of marauders there, but Clem still minimizing damage. A little bit reckless there, or is it? Clem knows that it's not. What a beast. Gonna pick off a couple of disruptors there. Knew that he could do that before his units got shot at.
It's always cool when it's like, is that too much? Is it reckless? It's like, no, that was perfect. You just took out so many disruptors. And he gets to defend here. He's got quite a few ghosts joining as well. A lot of Liberators in the sky as well. They got +2 while all this madness has been going down. ShoWTimE having to trade sort of inefficiently here. And look at that. These Liberators reign supreme. And holy crap, Clem.
Wow. Absolute beaster. And yeah, those Liberators looked like 2. It was 3. I mean, Clem felt like he came from behind to win that, but I guess ShoWTimE just traded a little bit too poorly at that third because he traded his entire army, right? It looked really scary, and I thought, wow, when the orbital command went down, I felt like, wow, maybe he could have lifted it off earlier, repaired it, but it ended up not mattering, Ben, and Clem with a very strong win.
I'm looking at the army value graph after that game, and I kind of want to just lift up my camera now and show it, but in fact, yes, I'm going to do it. Very unprofessional of me. That right there, that red line, that was ShoWTimE's all-in getting ready. And then that was ShoWTimE's all-in absolutely failing. So, yeah, after that, ShoWTimE was in quite a bit of trouble. He obviously kept the game going and what have you. But yeah, that's a really rough situation for a Protoss to try and bounce back from, honestly. And Clem just played very well. Some of these engagements where it's like, hey, I'm just going to snipe all these units. You don't see every player do that. Very often when a disrupt shot goes off, your instinct is to run away. Like, the fight or flight, or fight or flight. Whereas Clem's just like fight, fight, fight all the time. And it's really beautiful to see him do that.
You know what, Ben? I mean, sometimes we just don't get the right ideas. As human beings, we don't stumble upon them. But I feel like you just did something that we should try to include somehow. So maybe we can convince production to have like a screen where it just shows that screen. So because there's always a little bit of after game talk, and I feel like that's such an important tool, right? Like when you analyze your own games and like replays of what you just played, that's kind of like the first thing that you do is you go to the graphs and you see exactly what happened and you confirm like that what you think happened. So yeah, that was pretty cool, Ben. Thank you for that.
You are welcome, Cats, because it's very often when we see a game like that, you've probably had this as well when people talk to you, like they'll ask you, oh, ShoWTimE, what went wrong in that last engagement? And ShoWTimE would be like, oh, not much. I lost the game like 8 minutes before or something. Like it can be, I felt that the tide turned here. This was like the error. And it's not just about the end point of the story. Like the whole story matters, like from beginning to end. So, yeah, ShoWTimE definitely tried a 3-base attack or 4-base attack, but with a fairly low economy, and just he kind of did a little bit of zest, honestly, a little bit of an overextension. I'm still mortally wounded by zest in my team league, honestly. So yeah, going to bring that up time and time again. Anyhow, Hardwire map 3, where it's all decided. Spawning over in the top right as our blue Terran, it is Clem.
Yeah, in the bottom left-hand side, spamming his camera hotkeys like a madman, it is ShoWTimE!
You see it now, right? The little red camera just kind of bopping about absolutely everywhere.
We know which one his 4th base is. Planned to be anyway so far. It's gonna be this one right here. That's gonna be his 4th base. Or at least what he thinks is gonna be his most likely 4th base.
Oh, that probe does... Oh, the probe that scouts the SCV. But the SCV did not see that probe in between there. And so ShoWTimE's...
The SCV didn't see it? Oh, because it was in the fog of war?
Yeah, I think so. In the little
smoke?
And thus, ShoWTimE with some 5-head plays. And you see Clem on the camera just then. His little mouth is twitching about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's like, oh my god, I'm against a psychic.
An absolute psychic. And of course, the extra probe gets pulled to the low ground to prevent, I suppose, the block, right? The EV block? Okay.
Yeah, that was actually very nicely done by ShoWTimE. The fact that he got away with what he did, and that's something that you don't bank on happening. That was just like the perfect scout. But he made it happen afterwards. That SCV, though, still gets over here, and it tucks into the perfect position. And ShoWTimE, he's super respecting this, but there is a
super respect though.
There's 2 spots, like it can't be attacked here. That is so aggravating for ShoWTimE.
It's gonna come out at some point, surely, right? Like it's 5 probes here. I wish that ShoWTimE had 1 more probe on the other side. This is exactly why, right? There could be 2 probes poking at it right now from the other side, but it's not gonna matter. ShoWTimE has plenty here. That is a lot of probes to pull for that, though. And now the Reaper, I guess, fair enough. The Reaper does arrive right after, though, so...
Yeah, it's actually a pretty big deal to force your opponent to pull that much. I mean, not having to put down a shield battery is pleasant, for sure. But so far... definitely a little bit of tit for tat on what's gone good and bad for both players, and I think it's all kind of just equaled out entirely. But Clem is so obnoxious with his Reapers, man.
Yeah, he won't find a probe though, so good control for ShoWTimE to keep them alive for the time being. The Reaper still being alive means that these adepts can't really too easily cross the map, but maybe ShoWTimE thinks otherwise. Oh no, he only used one. That's really clever. So the Reaper's gonna run into the other one, just face check it. And just one adept is going to cross the map to try and scout, as there's another Oracle opening from ShoWTimE. And I often think of ShoWTimE as having very few weaknesses, but this is one of them, kind of like, right? Like, it feels like he finds his perfect or his best style to play with. And he, as far as openers are concerned, like, we very often see him do the same thing over and over.
That is absolutely true. And I mean, same with most players, right? Like, even though we all like to think we're not that predictable, you ask somebody else, what am I going to do? And you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. Then you load up the next game, and it's like, oh, yeah, I did exactly that. And it's like, God damn it, I'm predictable. But yeah, Clem is making a Viking here, along with a Cyclone very early on. And ShoWTimE gets a scout off. Even gets a bit of an SCV kill here. In fact, he might get 3. Like, there's one more there that can get one shot, I do believe. But that Oracle will be able to get out and get recalled. I think that was definitely quite good for ShoWTimE. I think he could have microed maybe a little bit more and got an extra kill or 2 if he was super all about that. But behind it all, he's got the 3rd Nexus on the way, Twilight and a Robo. There's a reason why he likes this build. I think it just lends you a lot of options and scouting, which is a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, the more you do something, the better you become at it. And we've seen just exactly how good ShoWTimE can be here. So hard to blame him. Yeah, and yeah, I agree. Everyone is predictable to some degree, right? But some players actually have like more openings, like more build orders or more options, more openings. But yeah, I mean, and it's not to say that ShoWTimE has to play exactly the same way or that he will. We've already seen deviations between the first 2 games, but they come a little bit later. Just the opener seems to be somewhat predictable, and sometimes that can become exploitable because, you know, StarCraft is the type of game where if you know exactly what your opponent is doing, then you can account for it. And we've seen that from Clem to some degree with the Cyclone as well in every game.
This reminds me of that game that we watched of, I think it was Future against Trigger, or, you know, somebody in NA where we were like, hey, why don't they commit to this even more kind of thing? Because this has already been quite a bit scary, and he's kept that Cyclone alive, which has been decent. Lands the Viking as well. I actually like that choice a lot, even though it is going to die here most likely. Just didn't want to be in this fight with the Phoenix that he's inevitably going to lose with the amount of health he had.
Yeah, and then you have to micro an extra unit as well that's offbeat compared to your Marines. So landing it was good, I think. There was 4 Stalkers there, so if there was ever somewhat of a pounce, a force field or something, and you turn around, you definitely output more damage to the Stalkers than to the Phoenix at that point, because it's going to die too fast.
Yeah, Meow showing us the resources lost down here. It is ShoWTimE losing less, and that's how you want it to be as a Protoss player. Clem, going to be aggressive though. Look at all those juicy upgrades that are coming online. Stim, Combat Shield +1. And while being aggressive, throwing down the 3rd on location. 2 medevacs with this push as well. Scary.
It is scary. Let's see what he can do. There is, how many Phoenix? Just 2 with 1 more on the way. So maybe Clem can still look to outmaneuver, as one of those Cyclones will get trapped onto the Stasis Ward. That is not ideal. The first mine will connect onto a couple of Zealots. One of them will go down. The Observer does get scanned. And that is going to make it so that Clem can move a little bit more freely. But here comes the tag. Was there an Observer?
There was, but he sniped it.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think he sniped it at least. Yeah, he certainly did. Now sees all, man. Okay, those force fields are quite nice. Good pickup on the medevac, though, and kind of baited him into the Widow Mines a little bit. But ShoWTimE, as long as no super units are lost here, such as the Immortal, he's looking fine, because he's just buying time. Oh, that Immortal! Oh my gosh, super battery saving the Oracle there.
Super units, super batteries. Oh my god, Ben. What are we meant to do?
I don't know. I mean, where do I go with that, Cats? I mean, again, been asking myself for 12 years.
I'm just baiting. All right, well, Clem is going to get dislodged here pretty easy by the looks of it. One of the mines will connect into the Phoenix, but it will not get taken down. And this is further advantages to ShoWTimE. Clem has had map control, but there's not much that he can do with it for the time being, right? Like, I don't know, Ben. Ben, this is starting to look a little bit dire for Clem, but I feel like that has been the theme of every game so far. So is it time to get concerned yet, or is he fine?
Okay, one thing that I am concerned about is the fact that ShoWTimE is going second Stargate. Now, that is awesome. I think that's really cool. I think that's a lot about hardwire. But to answer your question, am I worried for Clem right now? I think he was actually trading pretty decently in some of these fights. If he throws down like a Ghost Academy right now, and by right now, I mean within the next 15 seconds, I'm still going to be absolutely feeling okay for Clem. But what ShoWTimE's doing here, and yeah, boom, Ghost Academy. What ShoWTimE's doing here with that second Stargate, not normal at all. Like, this amount of Phoenix that he's going to have very soon, I'm not sure I'm feeling it, but it's not often you see this. So this is, yeah, I'm wondering how he's going to play this one out.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this Phoenix will catch Mr. Cyclone on the side, so that's really nice. Then we'll reposition actually to that area of the map, which is a little bit sus, because you just saw all the Phoenix there. He's gonna break the rocks. I quite like that, right? Like, just make something do with your army and make it easier for you to continue with your movement, and maybe surprise ShoWTimE. If he doesn't know those rocks are taken down, then all of a sudden there's faster pathing to maybe that fourth or that fifth base later on, as ShoWTimE has taken the fourth base where we expected from his camera hotkeys. And that Clem is looking for his own.
There is one thing that is kind of annoying for ShoWTimE. It's the fact that he lost his one Oracle and he hasn't rebuilt it, even though he's got the two Stargates, and they are expensive, right? But that has stopped the amount of tagging. Wow, that Marine gets to see a lot of Phoenix. Clem's probably feeling like ShoWTimE's being a little sus here.
Yeah, that's a lot of super units, and they're gonna catch a couple of these medium tier units, and that's a lot. I think the Clem can't really disengage with all of them. Every unit that the Phoenix pick up is a unit that's gonna die, and that's a lot of Phoenix, like you were saying. So heavy taxing here for Clem just being out on the map, and there's not much that he can do unless he wants to turn around and take the engagement. But I don't think he has the numbers, and I don't think he has the tech to do so. Now he seems to think that maybe it's go time. Is it though?
Okay, the big thing here is those Phoenix, if they get EMP'd, that's it. They're floating blimps, man. Because right now, the fact that they can like lift up stuff, you can chase, you can do whatever you want. 2 carriers at a time is really cool by ShoWTimE, and we're getting +1 air weapons and stuff. But it's such a funny style by ShoWTimE. Like, I think he was hoping that he could catch Clem without Ghost and just kind of run him down a little bit there. But the fact that he's got this follow-up, which is going to be double robo, double carrier production, it's just interesting. Like, it makes a lot of sense, but it's also, you have to be so good to get this going.
Yeah, and it slows him down a little bit, right? Maybe if he had more gateways or a like lower tech transition, maybe he could have pushed the issue there and maybe even ended the game, because that was such great trades with the Phoenix. But of course, you know, accounting for, oh, like at 10 minutes I'm gonna have a great trade is impossible. So like the fact that he was already invested into this transition means that he has to play consistent with it. He can't cross the map. Now Clem is maxed, however, so definitely opportunities for the young French still.
Okay, where is the carriers? Is there any out for ShoWTimE? He's actually banking them in his natural right now. So Clem doesn't yet know. Maybe he does. Like, maybe he can kind of sense that something's awry, but ShoWTimE going to be doing some counter damage here with the Zealot run-bys, and now he's got a few carriers, and they've got the Interceptors with them, spreading out these Phoenix as well. I guess that's just to kind of, like, give him an eye as to what's exactly going on, but oh my goodness, that's a big pounce.
That is a huge pounce onto all of these Vikings in the dead airspace. They do get a Colossus for their troubles, and those are important to take down, but now there are so many forms of AoE on the side of ShoWTimE that I'm not even sure that it's worth it at this point, right? Like, because you also have to account for the carriers. I guess at this point you're just looking to kill Interceptors.
Yeah, like Clem's army, if it just A moves and we fight and he snipes down the Colossus first, oh my goodness, that's a lot of Phoenix waiting.
That is a lot of Phoenix waiting, and they were actually looking to reposition somewhere else, it looked like, but as they were doing that, they catch the medevacs. So Clem trying to work on two different sides of the map, on two different prongs. Will this work out?
It's a rough one, man. It's a rough one. What's this Viking count at? It's at 11. 9 ghosts as well. 2-2 just finished. That carry count, though, Cats, is starting to get really scary here. And you can see any fight that Clem runs away from just kind of loses a few units. And those Vikings are one of his slowest. They kind of, you know, they float by. They are absolutely not Top Gun pilots. They're absolutely Benny pilots. Oh, great force fields there, locking in quite a few of those units.
Yeah, it's going to force them to turn around, but at the same time, ShoWTimE didn't have the greater mass of his army here, so it's not... Oh, okay. Well, with those Phoenix coming back, they're going to again tax all of the retreating units. Great job from him, and Clem is actually going to look to consolidate and maybe take an engagement, but no, it's not the go time yet. I mean, he just lost so much. I can't imagine this would work, but yeah, he thinks better of it. He's going to back away.
It's so cool watching some of these fights, because it's like a fight happens in one spot, and then it kind of snakes to the other side of the map, and then eventually catches up to the other side of the map again. But yeah, this kind of fight is going to be very fun to see. There's no storm on the side of ShoWTimE, and I mean, there is a lot of ghosts, so landing storms is hard, but oh, those carriers, they're the target right now, although everything's the target for Clem, really. Like, any one of these Protoss units is able to deal a lot of damage, a disrupt shot, all your ground's dead.
How many super units do you count?
Let's have a look. See.
On the field. Type in chat to see how many you think there are.
How many super units?
Super units, yeah. As the Phoenix are all going to get EMP, that's a nice win for Clem in a sense, but it's going to cost him this 2 medevacs worth of units as well. So now on the other side, Clem may be looking to take an engagement. The Vikings are here and the Phoenix are not. Mostly air units on the side of ShoWTimE, so maybe it's the opportunity for Clem to pounce. But of course, those are defended by other super units on the low ground in the form of those disruptors. The first shot will whiff as a carrier goes down for free, and the disruptor will get caught in the back. So finally, I say, it feels like a good engagement for Clem. But if we look at the resources lost, it's actually been a pretty even game.
It really has. And those Vikings went actual Top Gun there, because they were being microed super damn well. So let's have a look. How many super units are left over? Only 1 Colossus and 2 disruptors to worry about. Like, ShoWTimE has to be a little bit worried about letting this ground game lose control, because this is going to be... I mean, these carriers, they're moving up to +3 attack. Like, it's on the way. It'll be done in a couple of minutes or so. But 3-3 bio is nothing to scoff at, especially with Ghosts. Like, they kind of destroy the interceptors if they don't have the support. Oh, even sniping those zealots here. So yeah, like ShoWTimE here adding on the disruptors and just making sure that he has to respect the ground as well. I think that's important.
Millions of Vikings now up in the air, but that makes it so that the entire army of Clem basically fits in the radius of 2 disruptor shots, right? Like it's so thin of a margin that Clem has to work with on the ground, but he is one of the best at dodging those disruptor shots. So we'll see if he can manage to do that as the game progresses. Now, are we looking for Clem? What is the transition that we're looking at? I guess we see right now that he wants to go into Liberator range eventually.
So if Clem all of a sudden just becomes Maru, as in, you know, late game Maru, because Maru plays this style, or he has done in the past, it's going to be so many aggressive turrets and a massive amount of Vikings, which is what we have so far. He's getting the armor and the high sight auto tracking for buildings, which is cool, and obviously the Liberator range. But it's yeah, what we're going to probably see is a lot of turrets all over the map, almost playing it Spore Crawler style, because this army is so hard to engage against. The one super chance that you have is it coming into you. Granted, it's very difficult, and you have to play so patient and getting nukes off and all that stuff. I love the fact he's getting a second armory as well to start off his armor upgrades. Maru also kind of likes tanks when he does this, which that's good against the other units that you're scared of, which is Disruptor and Colossus. But yeah,
I mean, that makes... I was going to say, that makes a lot of sense to me, because if you are staying very defensive, I was thinking, what is the unit that trades effectively? And right now, it is the Viking, because it has the highest range in the game, right? So anything that tries to engage into you with those turrets, or you can be the one poking and maybe killing or picking off a carrier here and there, right? On the ground, tanks would kind of serve that same purpose. My only problem would be, I guess, what if the Protoss goes Tempest? Or is that just not a great unit to make? Nice nuke here.
So Tempest, as long as you have a few of them, you're constantly poking and not taking damage, but you lose a straight up fight.
I see. So yeah, I was just thinking about that turtley, I guess, situation and what Protoss could do to break that. And Tempest is the only unit that came to mind. After a good nuke, Clem will go into the main base of ShoWTimE and does kill the fleet beacon. ShoWTimE has not remade the fleet beacon just yet. But yeah, that seems like a pretty important thing to remake.
So if you're in ShoWTimE shoes, and I was like, okay, what does ShoWTimE need to do? Tempests do become the option that you need because you need something to poke. Because it's just free damage, right? Even though it's kind of small. So you need to start doing what the Terran's doing here. Move forward, get your cannon set up, get your shield battery set up, all that kind of stuff. Get ready to play the war of attrition, because that's what this is really going to come down to.
That poor Ghost.
Yeah.
Sapped. he was dead either way. He was looking for something there, maybe a nuke, maybe to snipe a Templar or something, as he knew where those were. Next nuke is going to look to land here on the 5th base of ShoWTimE at the triangle. But just cancel onto the buildings. Maybe a battery will die. Yeah, a couple batteries actually could have gotten canceled as well.
This really is going to be a split map game, man. Like it already is becoming that way, right? Which we have seen it in the past in TVZs. Like Hardwire is the map that you kind of split down the middle. If you take Curious Minds out of the equation, it is kind of the split map. But yeah, this is cool. I haven't seen either of these two play like this in quite some time. And in my head, these two are the best Terran and Protoss in Europe. So seeing them duke it out like this is so awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fitting for a game 3 as well. And like you said, Hardwire, really, they are playing to the map, right? It is one of those long but kind of thin maps. Relatively speaking, so it's going to be more difficult to breach on the sides. Like there's less distance to travel horizontally, which makes it so that both players can kind of answer, and there's like less ground to cover for those static defense and you know, whatever else they need to make sure that they can make a beautiful defense. And so right now it's difficult to go onto either side. ShoWTimE feels like he can maybe poke, but as soon as he does, he gets showered by EMPs.
There is one thing that I'm a bit scared of for ShoWTimE. He doesn't have Storm yet. I think he's realized it maybe now, because just having some High Templars around, like you can land a Storm, and if you land on that blob of Vikings Liberators, oh my god, the amount of damage you deal is huge, right? Look at this, by the way. Clem's really hunkering down on these turrets. I love it. That's exactly what you need to do. It makes it so much harder for these carriers to do what they want to do.
Yeah, very similar, like you were saying, to the Spore propositions. So the Spores are going to help against those interceptors. Those carriers are going to get taxed every time that they release their children. And now with these very annoying Liberators, it's going to make it difficult for ShoWTimE to poke even down this ramp. They are continuing to split. They are taking the respective bases here. Now, these bases are where it gets a little bit tricky as well, because you have kind of access onto your opponent's lower ground expansion once you secure your own base. But neither player really looking to exploit that, right? Like, again, no tanks or Tempests on either side. A Storm gets started now.
Yeah, I kind of saw his head. It was a little bit like, what? Like a definite question mark going on there. But yeah, I think tanks could be a decent thing to throw down. But if Clem keeps playing it like he's doing, which he's playing very fast, very quick, just making it so how do you attack this guy? He's doing a really good job, because ShoWTimE, you're the one that's meant to be feeling more mobile. DTs will absolutely allow him to feel a bit again. But I mean, DTs, how do they get across the map and where do they go to?
That is the question. It's not going to be easy for them to find any value anywhere, and they are expensive units as well. So if they are accounted for at any point, it can get really difficult. And with this many turrets, even surrounding, say, like the outlying planetary fortresses, the surface area for the DTs is not guaranteed on Blink. As we see here, the Vikings trying to one-shot one of those carriers, not going to be able to. The Ghost on the other side will find a few cannons for its nuke, but it is trading resources in any case. The nuke does cost 100 gas and 100 minerals.
Okay, these Liberators are now in a position that they can actually start to deal a little bit of damage. I think tanks, actually, now that would be a nice way to also stop the creeping of cannons and shield batteries. But the nuking that Clem's doing is really cool. ShoWTimE is moving around here, realizing, oh, I don't really want to fight that, and moves into a big field of turrets and, a lot of Terran.
Yeah, I mean, the last few minutes really feel like Clem has ShoWTimE's number right now. Like, I don't feel like ShoWTimE has been trading efficiently, and I don't feel like he has had an answer or is looking for those openings that he needs to try to do that, right? Like we were talking earlier, like what unit is going to look for those trades, for those pokes. Right now, the Viking is kind of king, and the only punishment would be something like Storm, but there is, of course, goes to answer with the likes of EMPs or snipes. So,
or some Tempests, just which is exactly what he's throwing down now.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to help the War of Attrition, which
exactly.
If we bring up the resource loss tab, it was in ShoWTimE's favor at the start of the match. Now it's not. And Clem, yeah, as you said, definitely been trading pretty damn well. Blink DTs are getting upgraded here. ShoWTimE's doing a good job of bouncing from side to side, though.
Yeah, so this is good. And yeah, this is the solution that we were looking for. And maybe ShoWTimE will be able to take the Planetary Fortress, but it will cost him his other Nexus. So a trade here on the most two contested bases, that's really going to decide which player is going to be able to get more resources out of the map, if either. So good job from both.
Certainly is, and ShoWTimE's not stopping. I think one thing that's really valuable for him too is the fact that his army, you need so much to deal with it, you need to be so careful. Although Clem, he's also on the other side, and it feels like his army might deal more damage quicker, weirdly enough, to the buildings. Like the armor's really coming into play on these buildings.
Yeah, but it's actually Clem that retreats a little bit faster, and ShoWTimE killing one of the orbitals there, not the second one. I feel like maybe Clem could have committed for that Nexus, but chooses not to. Really cool moves from ShoWTimE as well. If you pay attention to his Templars, they're usually split, right? Like they're looking not to get EMP'd in a clump or to get caught, but they are looking for those Vikings. So they're saying, I can risk one Templar to get out a good Storm, but not multiple clumped up because I don't want to get EMP'd. So Tempests are here, Benny, and that's good.
It certainly is. Will allow ShoWTimE to at least fight back a little bit when it comes to the center of the map. Going to stop these turrets from creeping forward. Bank-wise, both got a lot of gas. Clem, mineral-wise, I mean, he's been using a lot of extra minerals on these turrets. If he can claim the top of this ramp, which it'll be pretty tricky to do when the Protoss just turns up as you're trying to establish camp over there, it could have been a nice spot to get going. I feel like ShoWTimE's starting to get a bit of a hang of how to go about this.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like the Templars exposed here, very nice job on the other side from ShoWTimE identifying that Clem really wants that base. Gonna go and harass it with DTs. And, so now how does Clem answer the Tempests, Ben? Because now in my mind, when I look at the situation earlier, it was like, okay, the Vikings have the highest range. Now the Tempests are definitely king in that regard. And I don't can think of any Terran unit that will be able to trade super effectively with those. So does Clem need to pounce at some point, or is Clem now going to look to avoid ShoWTimE? Because like you said, the frontal engagement is not going to be great for ShoWTimE, but Clem still wants to kind of hug his defenses, I would guess.
This is so, I mean, to answer that question, it's so difficult to do it because you want to try and absorb the map as much as possible while harassing as much as possible and trying to not take a direct engagement unless they come to you. So here, where they're both fighting over one spot, I feel that this is kind of what the Protoss wants. What he doesn't want is because he can harass with DTs, which is far less commitment, but can deal a lot of damage. But he also, theory crafting, it's so difficult to do with this matchup for the Terran, because I just feel it's so difficult all around. But these kind of engagements, these little skirmishes, very nice for Clem.
Yeah, maybe if Clem can find... I mean, we've seen a change in approach, right? Like, the Tempest will weaken your army in the head-to-head engagement. These Templars are very scary, again, ShoWTimE pre-splitting them. So maybe now Clem has to look for an engagement where this supply of Tempest is just going to kind of go to waste. Because if we continue to play the War of Attrition, if we continue to trade offensively on either side, I feel like the Tempests are just going to end up getting the better over time. But they do have the weakness of being wildly ineffective in the straight up fights.
Yeah, it's just this poking will never stop. It will never stop. And these Terran units, once they take damage, as long as it's like a Viking or a Liberator, that's it. You have to repair it, which costs you money, or you lose it eventually. And that's... Oh, those Tempests were on a little bit of a joyride there. And by the way, they deal a lot of damage to buildings with that upgrade.
Yeah, so they're gonna go after this PF, and that's really nice. The Templars are on site. The Storm's not only gonna clip like one ghost, though. Really good awareness there from Clem, as he has just about unlimited scans. So that is another thing to contend with on the Proto side of things. His information is always gonna be in favor of the Terran at this point in time.
It's totally on a nice edge. These two have been at it for 28 minutes without really being able to engage one another for the last 10-15 minutes, because it's just way too scary. You take one fight, you can technically remax, but these armies are so mobile and so quick that you can just move across the map and kill your opponent before you can muster anything else, which is why they have to take it so patiently, and it's very, very difficult.
This has felt like one of the most symmetric PvPs that I have watched, right? Like when one player is moving on one side, the other one has been moving on the other side. Usually one player uses scans, the other one uses Revelate. Like almost, they're looking for the same advantages with different tools all the time. Now Clem, finally, we're looking for a fight that's a little bit to contest this area of the map where the other side of the map is not being contested. So let's see if Clem can make it happen here. That will be a nice advantage. One of the first times in this game where we see a clear advantage in terms of economy, right? Like the right side is being mined, the left side is not being mined by ShoWTimE.
Clem's been so patient here. Like, I know there's some times where I'd be like, screw it, I'll get off a few AMPs, you know, and I might lose those units, but Clem is just, he's not about that life. He's like, all right, just run away, trade well. And he's still trading all right, you know? Like, he's got to be so careful about any storm landing, which... So far, he's done a pretty decent job of just making sure that they don't, but those Tempests those are the things that are really annoying Clem right now.
Yeah, and especially when trading from these platforms where it's very difficult for your ground army to ever collapse onto it, because there's a much longer ground route than there is an air route. So the Tempests are going to have a good time shooting from there.
While all this has been going off,
this could be
BTs were killing a little bit, but they got sorted out. ShoWTimE does have a little bit of supply to remax on. He's going to do it with a mothership. He's getting +3 armor.
Ghost. Gonna get the EMP onto the Templars, 3 of them.
Oh, and a big EMP on the army. I wouldn't be surprised if Super Battery goes off very soon, actually, just to make sure that he doesn't take a fight with most of his army and, well, completely unblued when it comes to the Plasma Shield health bars.
Yeah, for sure. I think that would have been a good idea. Just have a little bit of a pit stop as Zealots. A less expensive unit to harass here for ShoWTimE. So he's even being efficient here, because I mean, he can definitely afford DTs at this point in time. But why not Zealots here and there? And it does the job. So props to him.
Or taking out an Observer here, removing the vision. It's so annoying when you're constantly getting poked and it's like, okay, you see me somehow. I'm not tagged. Now I'm tagged. And it's ShoWTimE's doing a really good job of using both those tools, tagging and observers, just to make sure that you can constantly trade just a little bit using these Tempests. And yeah, it's really hard to collapse on this Protoss army, man. It's so hard.
It is extremely difficult indeed, but if it's going to happen, I think it's going to happen on the flat ground here where both players are kind of posturing. I think that this area where ShoWTimE is moving to right now is kind of like paradise for those Tempests, as shielded from the High Templars. But that said, Clem's army is mostly on the air as well, so it's really... They're so well matched, Ben. I mean, like, it's so difficult to find advantages for either one. That's easy to say, oh, like, go and exploit that, you know, like, go and do that. They are just so very evenly matched.
They certainly are. And the banks as well. Like Clem, in fact, they're pretty much mirroring banks, just a little bit of a flip there on who has what resource. Those were some nice EMPs. By the way, ShoWTimE, you said it earlier, he's doing a very good job of just kind of sprinkling his High Templars around. It's oh, that mothership was on a little bit of a cross-country run across the map, it seemed there.
But it was mostly bait, right? Because it actually makes it so that a couple of good storms can land and the mothership will heal back up. It doesn't even take any hull damage whatsoever. And that is kind of like the meme, right? Like the minus 400, 400. It's like it kind of forgets everything that it did up until that point. Right now, already, it has probably paid for a good chunk of itself just by allowing those units to land those storms. And now it's going to cloak the rest of the army. It's very difficult to take engagements. However, for Terran, more so than for other races, it can be a little bit easier to ignore the Mothership in engagements due to those scans. But it is still a valuable target, and there's still its Mothership spells. So a lot of probes are actually going to fall to Ghosts on the other side.
They certainly are, and Nuke's going to go down as well on these cannons, cleaning up those bad boys. I guess Clem can go a little bit heavy on... Oh, wow. A little bit of friendly fire there. But he can be a little bit heavy on the nukes, because normally you're kind of worried about running out of gas, whereas he's got gas for days, cats.
He does, and yep. It's going to be now ShoWTimE getting a little bit adventurous. He has actually reclaimed this base on the low ground, where Clem on the other side can't do the same because ShoWTimE's already mined out there. So maybe a little bit of a mistake in execution here, not to mule primarily that base on that ShoWTimE is standing over right now, because there's still plenty of minerals. And if ShoWTimE can get a hold of this area, of this base, it could just end up tipping the scales here, because he does have a lot of resources to gather from there. So will he bring a probe? Will he try to make a nexus and defend this area?
That is the question. Right now, as long as he's mining, because does he really want to remake like a bunch of probes? I don't think so. He actually makes a ton of stalkers here, which is interesting to me. I guess in terms of like how many marauders, there's only one on the field. 16 Marines, 16 Ghosts, 51 Vikings. Yeah, stalkers are pretty good against Vikings.
I guess it just doesn't seem like the unit to make for supply right now, but maybe it's fine. Like over time, if he can find semi kind of decent trades here, as ShoWTimE continues to push them forward. Those Ghosts are playing with fire, and fire they're gonna find as the Disruptor will land. Another base from Clem gets cleared out, and again, Clem has been like very measured, not dropping those mules, not gathering all of his resources out on the map. Which, if the game continued to extend like it was looking like it was going to, that is perfectly fine, and then just use scans, and you'll kind of trickle your income as time goes on. Oh, big engagement here as both players are looking to go for it, and a couple of storms will zone off here. There is still a very good sprinkling of those High Templars. One at a time is moving forward. One of them will get picked off with full energy by one of those Liberators, so not ideal. Another storm lands center mass of the Ghost clumps, and another one actually. But the air fight has mostly been unharmed. At this point, Clem needs to retreat. Those Stalkers are free to blink forward if they want to, and they will do exactly that, Benny, as a lot of Vikings are now exposed, and ShoWTimE taking a massive advantage in this last few minutes.
He certainly is, and ladies and gentlemen, this is why we often, as Terrans, avoid the late game against Protoss. It's so damn hard to get going. If I had to say anything, I think tanks could have been something that might have helped quite a lot for just keeping this army at bay, making it a bit more tricky. Maybe more counterattacks as well. Maybe more shameless on the turret count as well. But ShoWTimE, an absolute masterclass of how to do it, because Clem is not an easy fella, but he is making it look quite smooth in this late game.
Yeah, I mean, ShoWTimE, eventually he managed to pull the rope a little bit harder, and he has managed to break Clem by the looks of it. Scans are not going to be as plentiful as they once were, so maybe going after the Mothership is not the worst idea here. It's going to continue to cloak all of the units. Hasn't used... Oh yeah, it doesn't have energy, I guess, for Time Warp. Not that it matters too much, but it is a nice zoning spell at this stage in the game. The storm is going to land onto all the Vikings. Each one of those storms does 1 million damage, Benny. Take it away.
Oh, yeah, this is just brutal, man. It's bad weather, and it's all in Clem's base. On ShoWTimE's side, it's just nothing but sunshine for days. And Clem, he's going to suffer what looks like his second loss in the group stage. And ShoWTimE getting the fist bump out again.